Know someone in your life celebrating a birthday? They deserve to feel truly celebrated. That's what 1-800-Flowers has helped people do for 50 years, turning everyday gestures into meaningful moments of connection. And this April, during their 50th birthday celebration event, when you buy one bouquet, get a second bouquet 50% off. Celebrate more birthdays with our 50th birthday event all April long at 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast. Buy one bouquet, get a second bouquet 50% off at 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast.
How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, as always, text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777. Get the show notes, the live stream, the podcast, all that fine stuff. One programming note for everybody here. In the third hour today, I will be with you guys. We'll see what the news brings when we get there. But also on my flagship station, WSB Radio, I will have my interview with Rick Jackson, the first of the Republican gubernatorial candidates in Georgia. They had their big, messy, brutal debate last night, all those Republican candidates in Georgia. So on my local station in Atlanta, I'll have an interview with Rick Jackson. The rest of you will see where the headlines lead by 2 o'clock to get you. I do this show on the fly, I will have you know. There's never a script. People always think you do a script in talk radio. I'm like, how can I do that? The news could break. In fact, we've got big news that became news before the show started, and I've got to start there whether I want to or not because it's massive news. The United Arab Emirates, I don't know if y'all knew this or not, but I grew up in Dubai, Charlie and Philip. Oh, if you know, you know. The UAE has decided to get out of OPEC and OPEC Plus, which is a very big deal. Why? Because OPEC is a cartel, and OPEC essentially sets the global price of oil. And OPEC has decided that it wants to restrict output, and the United Arab Emirates wants to output more. They need the money. And the only way out of it is to get out of OPEC and the obligations of OPEC. This is from the Wall Street Journal. The United Arab Emirates said it would leave OPEC, dealing a heavy blow to the oil cartel as the war in Iran scrambles alliances and investment priorities among the world's top oil producers. The sudden departure of OPEC's third biggest producer further weakens a bloc that, despite producing up to 4 out of every 10 barrels of oil pumped worldwide, has been hobbled by internal disunity and the rise of American oil output. The war in Iran has piled on more pressure by exacerbating rifts among the Arab countries at the core of the group and by closing the Strait of Hormuz, through which the group's biggest producers export most of their oil, making it impossible for the group to influence the market during its biggest supply shock. The UAE is in a relatively privileged position with the ability to circumvent the blockade in the strait by routing more than half of its oil exports across the country. Withdrawing from OPEC will give it more freedom to make investments to expand its output and adjust to the uncertain future of the waterway. The UAE in recent years has asked to produce more of its oil under OPEC's output accords. It has grown less willing to compromise as its relations with OPEC heavyweight Saudi Arabia, a neighbor and sometimes military partner, have frayed amid competition for regional leadership. By withdrawing, the UAE is diminishing its relationship with a long-standing Arab-led bloc and aligning itself more closely to the United States. The decision to withdraw from OPEC is part of a broader decision by the UAE to chart its own path when it comes to alliances, says Eric Alter, the dean of the Anwar Gargash Diplomatic Academy in Abu Dhabi. The UAE said it would also exit OPEC Plus, a group of major oil producers that includes Russia, and gradually increase production afterwards. Its departure, therefore, removes one of the core pillars underpinning OPEC's ability to manage the market, says Jorge Leon. head of geopolitical analysis at the consulting firm Rystad Energy and a former energy demand analyst at OPEC. Quote, losing a member with 4.8 million barrels a day of capacity and the ambition to produce more takes a real tool out of the group's hands. Gulf OPEC delegates had warned that the UAE's departure wouldn't only reduce the organization's ability to manage the market, it could spur more defections, as several members have chafed at Saudi Arabia's dominance in the group. The exit takes away 13% of OPEC's production capacity. Alongside Saudi Arabia, the UAE is one of the few members with meaningful spare capacity, or the ability through which the group exerts market influence and responds to supply shocks. Brent crude was little moved after the announcement, with the most actively traded contract hovering around $104 a barrel. Now, who are the OPEC nations? The OPEC nations are mostly Middle Eastern countries, but not all Middle Eastern countries. They include Iraq, Iran, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, and then joining them later, Qatar, Indonesia, Libya, the United Arab Emirates, Algeria, Nigeria, Ecuador, Gabon, Angola, Equatorial Guinea, and Congo. Ecuador suspended its membership in 1992 but rejoined. There are 12 now total countries in OPEC. Qatar withdrew in 2019, Angola withdrew in 2024, Gabon in 95. They still control 40% of the world's oil. Now, a cartel is considered illegal under the United States definitions. Cartels are groups that coordinate to fix prices. Independent businesses or nations that collude to fix prices, limit production, and reduce competition to increase collective profits. Some would argue that De Beers is a cartel. In fact, I think that in most cases, De Beers would be considered a cartel. It's certainly a monopoly, a central selling organization to buy up excess supply of diamonds. You know, diamonds are not actually that rare. If Russia were to dump on the market all of its diamonds, diamonds would be really, really cheap. They're actually not rare. They're very common. But what De Beers does is De Beers buys up mines and has a central selling point and then spreads diamonds around the world. When Russia thought about doing its own diamond selling, De Beers essentially paid them a lot of money and brought them into the monopoly. Diamonds are sold monopolistically. They violate the Sherman Antitrust Act. De Beers has to be careful in operations in the United States, among other things. They create artificial scarcity. OPEC operates the same way. OPEC is a cartel that manipulates and controls pricing of oil. For 40% of the supply, they can control it. You get the United Arab Emirates out of OPEC, and suddenly only about a third of the world's oil is controlled by OPEC. Part of the United Arab Emirates' concerns are Saudi Arabian control. The Saudis and the Emiratis have had long military relationships and positive relationships, but increasingly, the United Arab Emirates feels like Mohammed bin Salman, the crown prince, is bullying the United Arab Emirates and has demanded that the United Arab Emirates curtail its oil supply. It has demanded the United States or the United Arab Emirates limit certain military actions. They're on opposite sides of a feud in Somalia, among other issues, and in Sudan. The United Arab Emirates not necessarily on the right side in those issues, but they don't want to be bullied by Riyadh. They are an independent nation, and they have massive oil reserves of their own. What happens now is the United Arab Emirates, by leaving OPEC, solidifies itself as an American alliance. The United Arab Emirates has wanted to expand its ties to the United States pretty significantly. In doing now what it is doing, it is going to inevitably and consequentially be of a much greater alliance to the United States and will rely on the United States. What it is also doing is it's building a pipeline across the country to export its oil into the Gulf of Oman so that it can get around Iranian control. Iran, you will notice, is part of OPEC. Iran is one of the original members of OPEC. Iran was a member of OPEC when the Shah was in charge of Iran, and the Islamic Republic of Iran stayed in and used its clout and its massive oil reserves to help steer OPEC. By getting out of OPEC, the United Arab Emirates not only harms Saudi Arabian production, but economically hurts Iran. And by the way, benefits itself. It can produce more oil. It's not restrained. And right now it actually needs oil because Iran, 80% to 90% of the targets that Iran hit within the United Arab Emirates were civilian targets. And Dubai needs to rebuild. It's asking for some currency exchanges with the United States that Scott Bessent is willing to give. It's asking the United States to help it economically right now because of the American war in Iran. It's got cause to do so, and we're probably going to. And the other OPEC nations are going to find they have less clout in the world. And this could actually bring about the end of OPEC. Now, I want you to think about this because you're not going to hear this from very many people anywhere else. I want you to think about the world stage now where it is with Donald Trump. The Israelis have begun military cooperation with Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, as has Ukraine, led by a Jewish president. They've been helping Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates target Iranian drones. The Israelis have begun a military cooperation pact with Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. The United Arab Emirates is now leaving OPEC and OPEC Plus to set its own prices and to build a stronger military alliance with the United States. Iran's oil reserves are almost so full that they will stop production. The Iranians, in fact, have said that within the next week to 3 weeks, they will have to cease all oil production because they can't offload enough oil. The Saudis and the Emiratis have now built pipelines to minimize the significance of the Strait of Hormuz so that they can get their oil, the Saudis to the Red Sea, the United Arab Emirates to the Gulf of Oman. Hamas and Hezbollah are crippled. The Houthi are crippled and unfunded. All of this because of Donald Trump. The realignment of the Middle East towards Israel and the United States continues in earnest. The Chinese economy is crippled by their lack of oil from Iran. The United Arab Emirates is about to grow its economy by getting out of OPEC and allying even more tightly to the United States. Saudi Arabia, which refuses formal diplomatic recognition with Israel, is now in a military alliance with Israel against Iran. Israeli military advisors are reportedly by multiple media outlets in Riyadh working with the Saudis. The Jordanians have reestablished their military relationship with Israel, all because of Donald Trump. Democrats were dismissive of the Abraham Accords and deeply hostile to the president taking on Iran, and yet him taking on Iran has not only crippled OPEC all of a sudden, it's also reestablished and re-cemented peaceful ties between Israel and many of its Arab neighbors. It's also strengthened the United States' hand in the Middle East as these Arab nations become more dependent now on the United States. It's also hurt China's economic ties around the world as China now wants the International Monetary Fund to bail out its roads and bridges project because third world countries, given the jack up in the oil prices, can't pay back their loans, and the Chinese economy is so crippled because of oil prices being so high, it can't continue to fund the roads and bridges project, and the United States holds a veto in the International Monetary Fund and says it will veto the bailout of China's economic package. Also, let's not forget, Venezuela is now pumping oil that American companies are refining. Cuba is on the verge of collapse. China has been run out of Chile and Peru. We're having a global realignment towards the United States because of Donald Trump. And the American press corps and the Democratic Party refuse to acknowledge it and give him credit. Maybe it's temporary. Maybe it's ephemeral. Maybe it won't last. But right now we have this realignment in the Middle East, within the Western Hemisphere, and even among those countries that had otherwise become dependent on China, all because of the President of the United States. And no Democrat wants to give him credit. Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson here, 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, you should know this morning people in Minnesota woke up to mass federal raids of Somali facilities as the administration has decided to crack down on the Somali fraud. You know what I think I want to do at the top of the third hour is get into the Lee Zeldin. If you haven't seen this with Rosa DeLauro of Connecticut, it's absolutely insane that she did not know what was going on. So we will get there. But I want to read you this tweet from Bill Mlugan. The Department of Justice has confirmed the FBI has raided 20-plus locations in Minneapolis in relation to ongoing federal fraud investigations. Sources tell Fox News the locations are largely Somali-linked businesses, including the infamous Quality Learning Center. It's Learning Center, Bill. It's not actually learning. Quality Learning Center. I'm told these are court-approved search warrants being served, and they're tied to fraud, not immigration enforcement. Fox is told 22 search warrants were executed this morning in Minnesota. The Department of Justice released a statement saying, quote, "Today, the FBI with federal, state, and local law enforcement is involved in court-authorized law enforcement activity as part of an ongoing fraud investigation." Pretty big deal as the feds crack down. It's very much like what's also happening in California. By the way, did you know, I mentioned this the other day, but Dr. Oz has reiterated this. In California, they shut down all of those hospice facilities that appeared to be fraudulent. Dr. Oz confirmed not a single one of the hospices that has been shut down by the federal government has called to ask why it hasn't received money. Not a single one. Over 400 shut down. Not a single one has called asking where their checks are. Kind of a tip-off that something's not right there, is it not? When we come back, I'm going to be joined by Frank Siller. He is the CEO of Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Named in honor of Steven Siller, who was a fireman on his way to the Twin Towers on 9/11. His traffic was blocked, so he put on his firefighter gear, ran through the tunnel, and then to the World Trade Center and lost his life helping people evacuate the building. When we come back, Frank Siller. Right now, let me tell you about Vision Computers. If you're buying a computer, you're building a computer, Vision Computers can build them for you. You can go to the one-size-fits-all big box store, the electronics store. You can get one of their computers, and it's mass marketed. It's for the lowest common denominator of people. That's not you. You're more sophisticated. Your business is as well. You want a computer that is your computer, not the mass market's computer. Vision can build that computer for you, talking to you about what you need. It can grow with you, and you get their world-class tech support built into the system. They can take care of you. They can even, if you've got an existing machine and it's Windows 11 compliant, transfer everything over to the new machine so it's just like your old machine except brand new. And you get their world-class tech support where you get the special phone number. You get to call them 15 seconds or less. Somebody gets on the phone and helps you through whatever problem or issue, question you have. Human, not AI. Call them at 404-COMPUTER. Go to visioncomputers.com. They can even do this for your whole business. If you just want their managed IT, they can help you with that as well. If you don't need the computer, but you want the IT, you can get that from Vision Computers. 404-COMPUTE. Tell them Eric sent you. 404-COMPUTE or visioncomputers.com. Let Vision Computers take care of your computer needs. Welcome back across the nation. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number, 877-973-7425. On 9/11, firefighter Steven Siller was stuck on a bridge trying to get into Manhattan to the Twin Towers after they were struck. He put on his gear, ran through the tunnel to the towers, and he lost his life helping others. And the Tunnel to Towers Foundation honors him and his commitment. Joining me by phone is Frank Siller. Frank, welcome to the show. How are you?
Very good, Eric. Thank you so much for having me on today.
I'm excited to have you, and I need you to know my director of affiliates has run your race for years now. I got to give him off. I don't make him take a vacation day, though. He goes and runs the race, and then I make sure he does his work, so he multitasks. He's still got to answer his phone calls while he's running, but
it sounds like a busy man. But let me tell you, if you ever did come to New York, you'd see 40,000 people retrace my brother's final heroic footsteps, like when he ran through the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel on 9/11, which is almost 2 miles long, went up West Street into the South Tower and up those stairs. And while he was going up there, the building collapsed. And, while saving others, he gave up his life. And he was my little brother. He was the youngest of 7 of us. And he was married and had 5 kids. And when we realized what he did that day, when we put all the pieces together and found out how he got there, we started a foundation to recognize what he did and to make sure that we never forget.
So now I understand the race, but you guys, so this is, it's kind of wild to me, the coincidence of this, Frank, that it's the nation's 250th birthday this year, but it's also the 25th anniversary of 9/11. And it's so long ago, 25 years, and yet it still, for so many of us, is yesterday. And I know you guys are doing something a little different this year, doing something special this year.
Yeah, we're doing many things to recognize the 25th anniversary of 9/11. And one of the things we're doing, we're giving away, we do mortgage-free homes to every firefighter, police officer, every first responder in America. You die, you leave a young family behind, we're going to take care of those families. We're going to pay off their mortgage. We do that for Gold Star families as well. And we build smart homes for catastrophically injured service members. You give your body for your country. We're going to give you a mortgage-free smart home with all the technology, and it give you back some of your independence. So we do that every year. But what we're doing this year is we're delivering 343 of those homes, Eric. And why 343? That's the amount of firefighters who died on 9/11. Of course, once again, one which was my brother. And what better way to combat such evil of that day is by doing good. And that is, I don't know if there's anything better than make sure you could stay in the home that you're making all the dreams in. So we're doing that. And then we have a piece of steel from the South Tower. It's 16,900 pounds. It's about 26 feet long. We built this beautiful vehicle to bring it around the country. We're going to start at ground zero and go to nearly 40 different stops. Shanksville, one of those. We'll go to Shanksville and remember the Flight 93, the great heroes. Todd Beamer said, let's roll. We have to teach a lot of kids that weren't even alive then what happened that day and the great loss that we had to our country. So when this steel goes around, I want people to go up to that steel and put their hand on it and really feel the souls of so many people, because there's over 1,000 bodies never recovered down at ground zero, and my brother was never recovered. And I want them to feel the souls of these great heroes in that steel and the sacrifice and bravery that was of that day. And I just want America not to forget. So we're making sure that steel goes all over the United States, and we're going to honor these great heroes, not just the heroes of 9/11, but the 7,000 plus men and women that have given their lives in the global war on terror ever since. So we're busy this year, but we're proud that we're taking on this huge responsibility to make sure we never forget.
Well, and I've got the list here. Let me just read this so people know where to look. So it'll be New York, Staten Island, Long Island, Stoysdown, Pennsylvania, Land O'Lakes, Florida, Sarasota, Florida, Miami, Florida, Mobile, Alabama, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Houston, Texas, Austin, Texas, Texarkana, Texas, Fort Worth, Texas, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, Scottsdale, Arizona, Los Angeles, Seattle, Salt Lake, Keystone, South Dakota, Denver, Kansas City, St. Louis, Chicago, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, West Point, New York, and Boston, Massachusetts. It really is a tour across America for this thing.
Yeah, we're going to Mount Rushmore, USS Alabama. As you said, Flight 93 Memorial. We're going to be down in Washington, right at the White House on September 9th. We're very excited about that, and then we'll have a nice escort of that steel back up into New York. And on the 25th anniversary, myself and my family, I'll be walking through the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel with that piece of steel up to ground zero, to commemorate and to remember the sacrifice of so many. So, yeah, it's a perfect way of it's symbolic in the great resolve and resilience of America, and we're proud that we're doing it.
Yeah, we had a guest pastor in our church a couple of weeks ago, and he was preaching on Romans 8, that all things work for the good of those called according to his purpose. And he said, sometimes you just can't see it, particularly at the time when a parent loses a child, when a family loses a loved one. It's how does that work for good? And you don't see it, and nobody has an answer for it. And then you see the tragedy that happened on 9/11. And now we hear about what you guys are doing and the number of people who, when they lose a loved one in the line of fire in duty and their mortgages are taken care of, and you can see the good that comes from that. It's not what you want, but it's still a good that serves other people.
We have no choice. If you do listen to the Lord, which is, I'm a firm believer, He puts us on a path. We just have to open our ears and follow what He wants us to do. We had no choice as a family, and well, actually, we did have a choice to either pull the covers back over our head and not get back into society or do something. And we decided that my brother wasn't his final legacy is not going to be in the ashes. It's going to be in the rebirth of what we do as a foundation. And look, this year it'll be over 2,000 mortgage-free homes that we've given, over 25,000 homeless vets we've gotten off the streets in their own apartments. And of those 25,000, over 10,000 of them had children. They were on the streets.
Wow. And
over 10,000 had children. And then we give them all the comprehensive services they need. And, last but not least, we just recently named a scholarship program after my mom and dad, May and George Siller Scholarship Program here at the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. And everybody who wants to get involved, you go to t2t.org. But we're paying now the college tuition for every kid that's in our program, all 2,000 of those families and Gold Star families besides. There's 15,000 additional families that we're helping in that scholarship program. So we have our work cut out for us. We do it because of the kindness and generosity of Americans. Once again, we ask everybody to join us at t2t.org. $11 a month. $11 a month. We're able to do all this work. That's the beautiful thing about Tunnel to Towers is that we're a grassroots foundation. Yes, we have Home Depot. Yes, we have General Motors. We have American Express. We have T-Mobile. We have these great companies, but we do it on the backs of $11 a month. Millions of people, literally millions of people every year donate to us, and we're very proud of that as well.
Well, Frank, listen, I appreciate you stopping by. And again, the website, folks, is T2 and then the letter T. So T2T.org, Tunnel to Towers Foundation. I know that this piece of the trade center is going to be through Baton Rouge near my family and around the country. And I appreciate you stopping by and talking about it and appreciate so much what you guys do.
Well, thank you. And thank you for having me on. God bless. And, of course, God bless America.
Absolutely. Frank Siller, who lost his brother, one of 7, with his brother having 5 kids on 9/11, and started with his family Tunnel to Towers Foundation. T2T.org is the website. And again, if you go, you can get involved. You can support them. You can do the run. You can also now this year see it. It's been a while since I've been out to do Bill Maher's show on HBO. It was actually pre-COVID was the last time I did it. I fell off their radar. I'm not exciting or controversial enough. Me, of all people, not controversial enough for Bill Maher's show, I guess. But you'd go to Beverly Hills. They'd put you up at a very nice hotel, and down the street was a 9/11 memorial, and it was a beam from the World Trade Center, and it was folded over like one of those memorial ribbons, the yellow ribbons or the AIDS ribbons that people wear. And it wasn't done like that for them. It had folded like that with the collapse. And it was a beautiful memorial. I've taken some pictures of it in the past when I was out there. Just kind of stunning to see that steel folded over like that. And there are to this day so many people with conspiracy theories about the buildings and inside job and it couldn't happen. And they've read about it on the internet. And yet there are so many people who lost their lives that day in the buildings, including Mr. Sillers, who was a firefighter, firefighters and police officers and others. So much loss of life. So if you're interested in helping, T2T.org, T the number 2, the letter T again, .org, Tunnel to Towers Foundation. You can find out a lot more about them there. Now, we've got other news of the day as well that I need to talk about beyond these things. I wanted to highlight that, though, because they're starting this rollout around the country and going to be somewhere near you if you want to see it. And also, just wanted to point out that it being the 25th anniversary, it doesn't, to me, and I realize if you're younger, if you were alive, like my kids were not alive at the time. They weren't born. So it's ancient history to them to some degree. And for me, it still feels like yesterday. I remember where it was. There's also news on Iran that I've got to bring you. I want to play you this clip from Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State.
If there is no deal, what comes next?
Well, again, that's the president's decision to make. I would start out by reminding everybody that the level of sanctions on Iran are extraordinary. The pressure on Iran is extraordinary, and I think more can be brought to bear. But I hope that in the aftermath of this conflict, the whole world's eyes have been opened to the threat Iran poses.
I hope they do, and I'm not sure they do. It still seems clear that people on the left in this country are rooting for Iran. You have the German chancellor claiming that Iran is now stronger. It's not really stronger. Part of me wonders if he's trying to egg on Trump to go back in and do more, and I think the president should. I firmly believe that we need to go back in and bomb Iran. There is news out today that an F-5 was able to penetrate the Kuwaiti airspace from Iran to hit an American military installation. It was not a drone as first advertised, and it appears that is why Kuwait shot down 3 American jets. They overreacted to this F-5 getting in their airspace. Now, a lot of people have denied that this actually happened and said there's no way, this is Iranian propaganda. The American government today is confirming, in fact, that is what happened, which is a major breach of airspace that an Iranian F-5 was able to get through, an older plane able to get through and do damage in Kuwait. There is a piece in The Atlantic you should know about that is essentially based on a series of leaks from people close to the vice president that the military actually has not been forthcoming to the president of the United States about the extent to which the damage occurred in Iran was not as dramatic as the president believes. There is a growing movement on Capitol Hill now to try to convince the president to do something about Pete Hegseth. Members of the Republican elite in Washington on Capitol Hill believe that Pete Hegseth has not been being straightforward with the president of the United States. They're now echoed in this Atlantic piece by J.D. Vance. Likewise, however, the Saudis, Emiratis, and the Israelis would like the United States to go back into Iran. We do actually believe that we could cripple further the Iranian regime. These countries believe we could cripple further the Iranian regime and could ultimately spark a movement of the people of Iran to take to the streets if we were more ruthless. The president, of course, pulled his punches. He didn't go after bridges and power plants, which he could have, since they were joint-use military purposes. If you use something for the military and civilians, you're allowed to blow it up under the Geneva Convention. This nonsense about it being a war crime is, in fact, nonsense. The president should go back in and be ruthless to Iran this time. However, the Iranian oil reserves are going to fill up within the next 3 weeks. Iran has said it wants to come to the table and cut a deal other than with nuclear material. The president has this morning now said he rejects Iran wanting to do a deal without nuclear material, that his goal is to end Iran's nuclear capability and will not commit to a deal with Iran without, and is warning that he could resume bombings, which I actually hope the president does. Mr. President, if you're listening, and I don't know that you are, but if you are, you need to go finish the job in Iran. They will come for us. You may not be president. It may be a problem you've created for the next president. But you got to finish the job. You got to thoroughly destabilize the regime so that they can't lash out because they're too worried about what happens internally. It's possible for you to do this, not with troops on the ground, but with more extensive bombings. You got to get the job done, Mr. President. We have kicked the hornet's nest in Iran. It's now time to get rid of the hornets. Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson. Coming up, Across the nation, Lee Zeldin takes on Rosa DeLauro in Congress. If you're in Atlanta on WSB, I'll have an interview with Rick Jackson, the first of 4 gubernatorial interviews on my flagship station. Right now, I want to play a little more of the president's speech welcoming the King and Queen of the United Kingdom to the United States, the first royal visit of that caliber since the 90s.
Here in the shadows of monuments to George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, honoring the British King might seem an ironic beginning to our celebration of 250 years of American independence, but in fact, no tribute could be more appropriate. Long before Americans had a nation or a constitution, we first had a culture, a character, and a creed. Before we ever proclaimed our independence, Americans carried within us the rarest of gifts, moral courage, and it came from a small but mighty kingdom from across the sea. For nearly 2 centuries before the Revolution, this land was settled and forged by men, women who bore in their souls the blood and noble spirit of the British. Here on a wild and untamed continent, they set loose the ancient English love of liberty and the Great Britain's distinctive sense of glory, destiny, and pride. And that's what it is: glory, destiny, and pride. The American patriots who pledged their lives to independence in 1776 were the heirs to this majestic inheritance. Their veins ran with Anglo-Saxon courage, their hearts beat with an English faith in standing firm for what is right, good, and true. In recent years, we've often heard it said that America is merely an idea, but the cause of freedom did not simply appear as an intellectual invention of 1776. The American founding was the culmination of hundreds of years of thought, struggle, sweat, blood, and sacrifice on both sides of the Atlantic.
It's a good point. Good speech by the president. One of his best speeches that he has given, although I like free-form Trump speeches more than the teleprompter and the notepad speeches. I got to tell you about my bank, Old Glory Bank. Speaking of Old Glory and 250 years, Old Glory Bank is my bank, and they are a pro-freedom bank founded by conservatives for conservatives during the debanking trends. And now that Trump is president, you don't have to worry about getting debanked by progressives. But there are some banks out there, like, for example, won't let you use your debit card for certain legal purposes because progressives don't like it. You don't have to worry about that with Old Glory Bank. They support your right to bank, and they would love to have your bank. I've got a no-fee checking and a no-fee savings account with them. You can get premium accounts with them. If you're active duty military, they'll waive fees for you for their premium accounts. And if you're veteran or active duty military, rather, or first responder, including Border Patrol and ICE, they have line of duty benefits up to $100,000. If you got direct deposit in an account, you can see the site for details at oldglorybank.com/Eric to learn more. They're a great bank. They support your freedom to bank. They're one of the fastest growing banks in the country. If you're a business, they're very hands-on with their businesses. And they'd love to check you out and have you check them out. They even allow you to deposit cash, even though they're an online bank. oldglorybank.com/Eric. Check them out today. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply.
From lashes for days with the viral Liquid Lash Extensions mascara to awakening your eyes with lift and color from the Brilliant Eye Brightener, Thrive Causemetics is the go-to when you want to amplify your everyday look. Plus, every product is 100% vegan, cruelty-free, and made with clean, skin-loving ingredients that work with your skin. And for every product purchased, Thrive Causemetics donates to help communities thrive. So every time you use your favorite Thrive Causemetics product, you're helping communities you care about too. Amplify your everyday. Go to thrivecausemetics.com/shine26 for an exclusive offer of 20% off your first order. That's Thrive Causemetics, CAUSEMETICS.com/shine26.